Hello. We begin from the nation's capital, where 7 bodies of iron scavengers who invaded the site of a demolished building in Sabon-Lugbe, a suburb of Abuja, have been recovered by the FCT Emergency Management Department. The director of the department, Mr. Abdulrahman Mohammed, adds that 2 other victims are receiving medical attention at the Federal Medical Center. According to him, the activities of over 500 iron scavengers who invaded the demolished building, pulling down and carting away iron rods, triggered the remains of the demolished slab to fall on them. According to Mr. Mohammed, the building is among the illegally erected uncompleted structures demolished by the FCT Department of Development Control on Thursday.
The rumors going around is not true that 40 people are buried here. No, it is not true. We only bring 7 dead bodies here. And they are also here to confirm it. They discovered that 5 of their members died. And you can see it's not anybody that caused it. There's no fight here. The houses, the people are just scavenging for iron road. And that's what exactly caused it. They are scavenging for iron road. The house have been sold to them. They learned that the government control were here the day before yesterday, that's on Thursday. And they know that they will not be here on Saturday and Sunday. So they want to use the advantage and come and scavenge for iron road. And that's what caused this. You can see even from up there, you can take pictures all over. They are still, we are trying to make sure that we ask them to go. They are not ready to go. But we are going to enforce to make sure that they leave the site. Nobody is living inside all this building. Nobody is living there. Only 2 people are receiving treatment in Federal Medical Center. The only thing I will tell people is that they should first of all save their life. We have been saying it all over again. People, you can see, if you take pictures of that, you can see people climbing on top of building. That anything can happen, emergency can happen, they will just fall and die. So these are what we are saying. Anytime this type of site, police must make sure they are there to make sure that they send people away. They should not allow them to take law into their hand and maybe try to demolish themselves.
The Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, the NSIB, says another body has been recovered in search and rescue efforts to retrieve victims of the helicopter crash in Rivers State, bringing to 4 the total number of retrieved bodies. A statement issued by the Director, Public Affairs and Family Assistance, Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, Mrs. Bimbo Oladeji, says a floating body was retrieved from the water by the FRC and was escorted by the Cameroonian Navy to the Nuim Aton for safe transit through their territorial waters. The statement adds that field operations identified the body by confirming the T-shirt worn matched the description provided, and that photographic evidence confirmed the identity of the 4th victim. The NSIB explains that East Winds Aviation was contacted to arrange an air ambulance for transporting the body tomorrow morning, with East Winds actively coordinating this effort. Earlier on today, search, rescue and recovery vessels MV Vosin, Ibok HD Steadfast, MV Pioneer and Jack Sparrow departed Ibok for the Anton field. Well, the NSIB also confirmed that 2 additional specialists will be deployed to the Nuim Aton incident site tomorrow, October the 28th, to supervise and support the helicopter recovery effort, while the fast rescue craft, that's the FRC, was relaunched to facilitate recovery operations. The federal government is asking the military and other security agencies involved in the fight against banditry to redouble their efforts in order to restore peace to Zamfara State and other troubled areas. The Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, gave the marching order when he visited frontline troops fighting banditry in Zurmi local government area of Zamfara State.
It is an unscheduled meeting by the Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, as he visits frontline troops deployed to forward operating base in Zurmi local government area to encourage and boost the morale of the troops. The minister, while acknowledging the recent successes recorded in the area, stressed the need for the troops to redouble their efforts in tackling insecurity headlong.
We have seen the successes so far. The president wants you to do more. He wants you to end it, to end insecurity now. And as he has promised, he will continue to look into your welfare and your equipment.
At a separate event, the National Association of Nigerian Students, Zamfara State Chapter, are commending President Bola Tinubu and the Minister of Defense for their tireless efforts in restoring peace and security in the state, as the student group believes that the visit of the minister to the frontline troops is a statement of the federal government's resolve to end insecurity in the region.
The National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, Zamfara State Axis, warmly appreciate the unwavering efforts of President Bola Tinubu in restoring peace and security in Zamfara State and Nigerian at large. We also applaud the Honorable Minister of Defense, Muhammadu Bodo Abubakar, for his tireless efforts in restoring peace and security, dedication to Zamfara State security, visit to our dear state, Zamfara, and demonstrating concern for the state's security.
Zurmi local government area of Zamfara State has been severely impacted by banditry and violence, making it one of the most troubled areas in the region as bandits continue to promote widespread insecurity, displacement of residents, and economic disruption. But with the assurance of increased troop deployment by the federal government, residents are hopeful that insecurity in the region will soon come to an end.
In a move towards restoring peace in Agatu local government, Brigadier General Louis Lipdong, the commander of Operation Wellstroke, alongside the Benue State government, has successfully brokered a peace deal between local farmers and Fulani herdsmen. Both parties have agreed to forgive each other to mend their broken relationship. During the peace meeting in Makurdi, the state capital, the Director General of the Benue Peace Commission, Josephine Haba, urged traditional rulers and representatives of various interest groups to resolve the internal conflicts that have led to the dangerous idea of bringing armed mercenaries into Agatu.
The commander, Operation Wellstroke, Brigadier General Louis Lepdong, and top security officers converged on Makurdi, the Benue State capital, to broker a peace deal between the people of Agatu and Fulani herdsmen. On the 1st of October 2024, 9 persons, including 2 soldiers, were killed by suspected herdsmen in an attack on Eguma community of Agatu local government area.
If we had dealt with
the Benue State government cautions political and traditional rulers from Agatu to get their acts together as a people and avoid conflict of interest.
We know our problem. No one in the leadership of Agatu will claim ignorance of not knowing what our challenge is. We know our challenge. Our challenge is local. It is our local challenge that has opened door for external challenges to come in. If we had dealt with our issues when it started, we will not have external people or foreigners come and invade our communities.
After the opening remarks, journalists were excused from the meeting, which proceeded into a technical session behind closed doors. Soon after, the parties filed out and briefed the media, with the local government chairman announcing the peace deal.
We intend to find out what are the issues, and frankly speaking, this meeting is very explosive, the meeting is very timely, and the meeting has given us insight as to what really happened in Agatu local government. From this meeting, I'm assuring you that we are going to be hearing peace and security in Agatu local government.
The ardor of the Fulani herdsmen in Benue State welcomes the move. He assures that all will be well. One of the traditional rulers speaks about the peace deal, which they hope will end the killings.
As a leader, we are invited by the Agatu local government chairman and the old traditional council of Agatu to come and sit and talk for peace between Agatu and the Fulanis in Agatu communities.
The essence of this meeting is peace meeting, and I've never witnessed a peaceful meeting like this. And the way I look at this meeting is going to be the last solution to the crisis in Agatu local government.
Although the military would not speak on the outcome, the peace deal has given all parties an opportunity to explore non-kinetic approach to ending the conflict, as the state government warns that there will be severe consequences for any other breach of peace in the state.
Former Governor of Benue State, Mr. Gabriel Suswam, has threatened to leave the People's Democratic Party if the National Working Committee fails to resolve the issues that mar the party's ward, local government and state congresses in Benue. Mr. Suswam made a declaration when the Chris Abba Parallel State Working Committee, loyal to him, held their first expanded stakeholders meeting to deliberate on the party's affairs.
The crisis that broke out from the conduct of the World, Local Government and State Congresses by the People's Democratic Party in Benue State has splitted the party, which now operates from two different secretariats. At an expanded stakeholders meeting, Senator Gabriel Suswam warned that he would leave the party if the National Working Committee fails to resolve the grievances arising from the various congresses.
If all fails, there are alternatives, and we will explore those alternatives. But it will be a collective decision. It will not be my own decision. It will be collective. We will come back here and meet and take a collective decision if all fails. So let people not treat us as if we are stranded and there are no alternative. No person is stranded here. We can never be.
However, some leaders from the three senatorial districts pledged their full support to the party under Senator Suswam's leadership.
The leadership of this party is on your shoulder today. And you must take this responsibility and carry every member of this party along. Amen. On that, we will continue to stand by you, we will continue to work with you, and we will continue to fight along with you.
The coming of Suswam means everything to those of us who are of the PDP family. And that is why the stakeholders meeting in Makurdi today is very germane for us, because we want to stay here, gather support, and then re-endorse our own governor.
Mr. Chris Abba, who is the chairman of the Parallel State Working Committee, loyal to Mr. Suswam, vowed to carry on the party's responsibilities.
It was necessary that there is an interactive section put together to enable our great leaders of this party, our elders of the party, and our strong supporters of the party to come together and have an interface with the new ESCO.
With the stance taken by Mr. Suswam's loyalists within the PDP in Benue State, the party will need to act swiftly to maintain its relevance as a viable opposition, a role the PDP has abdicated for some members of the APC who are not loyal to the state government.
If the cost of peace is going to mean the lack of progress, I will rather continue to war for progress. Those were the exact words of the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, while reflecting on his stay in office. Governor Obaseki was responding to a question around political battles fought in the build-up to the September 21st governorship election, among other issues. The governor says he fought the battles with the intention to bring about reforms and progress for public interest.
Some people say I fought so many battles. And I say for change and reform to occur, you cannot maintain the status quo and expect that these changes will happen. So they were inevitable. And I will not consider them mistakes, especially since I didn't pick up any battles or fights. These were fights to stop us from making the kind of progress I felt we should. It's sometimes difficult to negotiate illegalities, to negotiate evil. I guess that what you would consider, if I were to do it all over again, I would have started the reform process much earlier, particularly the civil service reforms, and to get them to appreciate that they need for change. So if cost of peace is going to mean lack of progress, I'd rather continue to war for progress and make peace and keep my people in poverty and retardation.
In part two after the break, kidnappers abduct the Archdeacon of Owerri Central Archdeaconry and Vicar of St. James Parish, Okuzu, Venerable David Ajefobi in Anambra State. Please stay with us. River State has absolved the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, of any involvement in the suit seeking to stop the allocation of funds to the local government councils in the state. Making this known during a press briefing in Port Harcourt, the APC chieftain, Tony Okocha, admitted to deposing to the affidavit seeking to legally stop the allocation of funds to the newly elected chairman because of what he calls a faulty process. He further accused detractors of the FCT minister of lobbying to get Mr. Wike sacked from the cabinet just to score political points.
We would not rest on our oars. We will not stand akimbo to watch them take our common patrimony. Local governments belong to all of us. The state belongs to all of us. So we have equal stake, we have equal rights. And so we have to go to court. I want to state here that it is APC, Rivers State, that went to court. And they should leave out Minister Wike. You know, when you have the penchant to blackmail, okay, a champion, you say all manner of things. In spite of the fact that all they are saying are defeatists. What is Wike's business in this matter? What? The APC went to court. I deposed to the affidavit on behalf of my party. And we said this was not properly. And because it was not properly, please do not give allocation to them. I did. Is Wike a member of APC? No. So what is his business? It's just a deliberate attempt to blackmail a man.
The Archdeacon of Owerri Central Archdeaconry and Vicar of St. James Parish, Okuzu, Venerable David Ajefobi, has been kidnapped by unidentified individuals. According to reports, the abduction occurred around 9 p.m. on Saturday, October 26th, at the entrance gate of St. James Parish, Okuzu, in Owerri local government area of Anambra State. Up until now, no contact has been established with the abductors. When contacted for comment, the Anambra State Police Public Relations Officer, Tochukwu Ikenga, says the police have not received a report of the incident. Meanwhile, the church has begun prayer sessions for the safe release of the victim. And the Enugu State Command's Criminal Investigation Department State CID says that it has concluded its investigation on the unwarranted shooting and killing of Enugu-based Ogene musician Chikezie Okezie Nwamba by a police inspector. A statement issued by the Police Public Relations Officer, Enugu State Command, Mr. Daniel Ndukwe, says the orderly room trial of the implicated police inspector, Uzonwaji Joseph, has already commenced. According to the statement, the trial will facilitate the next course of action in accordance with the Nigeria Police's disciplinary procedures. In the meantime, the Commissioner of Police, Kanayo Uzuebu, has ordered the immediate redeployment of the officer in charge of the tactical squad, Ekeleme Chidobe, to allow for a comprehensive review of the squad's operations. Yes, President Bola Tinubu has made changes to his cabinet. Well, the tough decision, or the tough question rather, is how much will this impact the security and development across the regions? Tonight, our focus is on the Southeast region, especially the recent economic and security concerns. The man with the numbers, Babajide Ogunsao, founder of Leadership by Data, and Channels Television's data analyst, is right here to share more insight and the facts you should know. Babajide, great to have you again on the News at 10.
Good evening, Ayatollah.
So we're talking security in the Southeast. Tell me, how much progress is being achieved in that region, especially from the economic and, of course, the security perspective?
If we're to talk about progress, there are really two ways to look at it. And that's we either could look at it from the perspective of promises or perspective of potential. And promises and potential are really the two ways to look at the progress. But first is on security in the Southeast and overall security across the regions. There's some good and there's some bad news. The good news is we're now 18 months into this administration's journey. And yes, the president has made some changes to assist with improving the speed of which he wants to achieve his results. So good news, 18 months into this. Actually, the bad news is in another 6 months, INEC will be releasing the calendar for the 2027 elections. In another 6 months. The calendar for the 2027 elections will be out. And we all know how this happens. Once the calendar comes out, the real games and the doors for politics opens. But speaking on the promises, the first is, let's cast our mind and let's take a look at the promises the president made, candidates Tinubu made when he was at the Michael Okpara Stadium Square in Enugu, January 11, 2023. If you elect me as the president, we will work together, we can create the industrial hub, and we will create the industrial hub for Enugu, for Ebonyi, and for the Igbos. That was before the election. Now, let's take a look at what happened on the results of the election, the chart of the week, because it allows us to understand exactly what is going on. The region that is giving the president the least headache and the most headache. The region giving the president the least headache. The rest all regions are currently facing headaches, but the least headache coming from the southwest, and that's the region where the APC had the best performance. Ondo, 69% of the votes. Ogun State, 62% of the votes. Oyo, 61% of the votes. In simple terms, the southwest gave President candidate Tinubu his best performance. But look at what happened in the southeast. Imo, Ebonyi, Abia, Enugu, Anambra. On an average, 95% of those that voted in the presidential election voted against the president. And so, despite his promises, the evidence shows that they do not trust, and they still perhaps do not trust the president. The question is, nations are built on several things: values, ideologies, principles, but there's one component that brings all of these things nations are built on together, and that is called trust. The challenge is, the evidence we still see today is majority of those that voted and did not vote that live in the southeast region do not trust the president. How does the president build trust? Ayotunde, if I were the president, one recommendation now, for instance, I would tell the president is, if he wakes up in the morning and he wants to eat breakfast, he should go to Imo. He should have his lunch in Abia. He should have supper in Ebonyi. And if he wants to even go for a vacation, he probably should go to Anambra or Abia for vacation, because the evidence right from his campaign shows that he desperately needs to build more trust with families and businesses living in Nigeria's southeast region.
So is there a working plan, of course, to end security concerns in the southeast?
With reference to the working plan, the first is what we've seen, and if you take a quick look at the calendar of the key events that have happened in the last 12 months, if you take a look at what exactly has happened since last year, we'll notice that this time last year, October, IPOB was asking for a referendum dialogue with the federal government. By December, same time in October, the Enugu State High Court had declared the proscription of IPOB as unlawful. That was surprising. However, in December last year, the Supreme Court said the terrorism charges and trial of Nnamdi Kanu will still continue. In this year, the big news with reference to ESN and IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu hired a new legal team in February. Same February, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit said IPOB was operating from 22 countries, majority in the UK and US, and we clearly have seen the military eliminate a lot of IPOB commanders this year, and clearly with the recent news this week, especially of one of the founding fathers of IPOB that the defense headquarters announced had been captured. So a lot of activities is happening on the legal side, on the politics side, and on the security side.
Now we're really running out of time, but as we round off, Babajide, tell me, of course, the poverty numbers, and I'm sure I speak when I say most of the country, the poverty numbers we're seeing hasn't gone down, particularly this time in the southeast. How much will this affect the region's, security and growth and development and all of that?
Yes, we're talking poverty numbers. I was hoping that we'll have time to look at exactly what citizens' perspective on the southeast and national is talking about. But since we're talking about poverty numbers, recently, earlier this week, when we saw the big news on the arrest that the defense headquarters leader, military chiefs had made, let's take a look at the statement from the chief of defense staff. And it is clear regarding poverty, which is an empty stomach is an enemy of peace. So the war against hunger is as important as the war against terrorism. So clearly, yes, the plan is the military chiefs are trying to improve and achieve security progress in the southeast. However, it is also important that the government puts an emphasis on the war on hunger, just as we've looked at it.
We'll definitely leave it at that. Babajide, thank you so much for your analysis again on the News at 10.
A pleasure as always.
Still ahead on the News at 10, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu heckled by Hamas attack victims' relatives at memorial. Please join us again. Welcome back. 17 young Nigerian girls trafficked to Ghana have been rescued and repatriated back to the country, while 5 traffickers were equally arrested. This latest rescue operation brought to 130 girls repatriated back to Nigeria from Ghana alone since July of this year. Now, according to the Commission, this rescue is a combined and coordinated effort of the Ghanaian Anti-Human Trafficking Police, Nigerians in Diaspora Organization, NIDO, Ghana, and the Nigerian High Commission in Accra. Speaking on this latest effort, the chairman, CEO, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, Abike Dabiri-Eroa, reiterated the Commission's commitment to protecting Nigerians in the diaspora, which gave priority to combating human trafficking and safeguarding the rights of Nigerian citizens at home and in the diaspora. A statement by the Commission's head of media and public relations, Abdurrahman Balogun, stated that the rescued young girls, ages 18 to 29 years, come from various states, including Anambra, Abia, Akwa Ibom, Rivers, Imo, Edo, and Ebonyi. They were lured to Ghana under false promises of employment, but were instead forced into exploitative situations and bound by an oath of secrecy. More than 9 months after the Bodija explosion in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, victims are still calling on the government for help. The Bodija Estate Residents Association are still grappling with the loss of loved ones, property, and livelihood. They're appealing to the federal government to come to their aid as done in other parts of the country where residents suffer from disasters.
The 16th of January 2024, a day of panic and dread for residents of Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, and indeed the country at large. The ancient city was jolted by an explosion that shook it to its core, leaving unprecedented devastation in its wake. Lives were lost, property destroyed, while some were missing and never found among the rubble.
Since this day of infamy, on 16 January 2024, the residents have been traumatized and their lives have been turned upside down. At the last count, over 100 houses and numerous cars were destroyed, and many lives were unfortunately lost. It is not easy even now to accurately quantify the total cost of the damage, but it will not be less than 3 billion naira.
For those who lost loved ones in the explosion, their grief is never still. Their faces tell the story of the pain they bear still.
The only child I lost them. July 28.
The agony of the victims of the disaster is stark, but most have found solace at the mercy of friends and relatives to lay their heads as they were rendered homeless. The landlords note that the quick response of the Oyo State government was a lifeline at a time hope was in short supply.
The residents of Enugu commend the initial action of the governor of Oyo State, His Excellency to bring support to the victim of the unfortunate blast. It is to his eternal credit that he saw into action immediately after the blast of war to bring relief and emotional support to the individual victims of the explosion.
Many months after the disaster, the residents of Bodija, who assisted government in collating data for a report on the disaster, say they are yet to see the report put together by the Oyo State government.
Unfortunately, no copy of this report was released to us. I think for DLBG, we had a summary of the report. And at the meeting the governor summoned, we did ask that copies of this report to be made available to us, that we in turn would exchange our reports so that we can do some kind of reconciliation. Because it's very important that reports from the victims should be a very important document on which the government should act.
The Oyo State government on its part says it did all it could to provide some relief to the victims with temporary accommodation, feeding, and providing healthcare needs for all who needed it.
We kept spending a lot of money on this, our unfortunate brothers and sisters, that and this only abated on September 16 this year. His Excellency Governor Seyi Makinde has not ruled out further assistance.
Acknowledging NEMA's contribution through the donations of relief materials to the victims, the residents want more. They are pleading with the federal government to help them get their lives back on track, as it has done to other victims of disaster in other parts of the country.
We are grateful to the government of the state for the past favor. We now passionately call on both the federal government and the state government to do more to alleviate the sufferings of residents of KOVD.
They want those responsible for the calamitous incident brought to book, even as they appeal for financial rehabilitation from the federal government.
We hope that the prosecution, in case of instruction, who disturbed the peace of our residential health since January 2024, should continue unabated. We notice that nothing has been heard on the case since the arraignment by the High Court.
These victims are hoping that both the state and federal government would collaborate to help them cushion the effect of the unfortunate disaster, to help many who have been homeless and disillusioned. Bukola Uriwo, Channels Television News.
In a bid to mitigate the devastating impact of flooding in Nigeria, the federal government has commenced the evaluation and assessment of dams across the country to test the structural integrity and environmental impact on local communities. During the tour on some major dams in the southeast by members of the newly constituted Interministerial Technical Committee on Evaluation of Dams in Nigeria, the team, which visited dams in Imo and Enugu State, say the visit is part of the core mandate of the committee to formulate a robust and comprehensive plan to address the challenges.
In September 2024, a devastating flood displaced over 400,000 people in Benue State, northeast Nigeria, as a result of the collapse of the Alu Dam following a heavy downpour. This development led to the approval of the Interministerial Technical Committee on the Evaluation of Dams by President Bola Tinubu. Members of the committee are here in the southeast as part of their core mandate to evaluate the structural integrity of Nigeria's dams, assess their social and environmental impact on local communities, and formulate a comprehensive plan to address the challenges posed by these critical infrastructures. The first port of call is the collapsed Ivo Dam in Enugu State. The team proceeds to Amozari multipurpose dam located under the Onuyekwa Bridge in Amigo, Isialambana local government, and ended the visit at Inyishi Dam in Ikeduru local government area, both in Imo State. The head of Technical Subcommittee on Dams and Deputy Director, Geotechnical Division, Dams Department at the Federal Ministry of Water Resources, Mrs. Abiola Luatosi, who led the team, shares her thoughts on the tour.
The findings of the committee is going to form a robust action plan that's going to solve the challenges facing dam construction in Nigeria. Dams provide water supply, irrigation, for hydropower development. When we finish now, we all sit now and look at some of the technicalities. We notice some things we noticed at Ogwashuku Dam, some in Amozari Dam. All these things are going to form a robust action plan.
This tour by the Interministerial Technical Committee, particularly in Imo and Enugu states, marks a critical step by the federal government to addressing potential risk, safeguard the well-being of affected communities, and foster resilience against flooding. Ejitopakutai, Channels Television News.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, says it has intercepted consignments of opioids concealed in soles of shoes and hair attachments heading to the United States, United Kingdom, and Cyprus. A statement signed by the Director, Media and Advocacy of the agency, Mr. Femi Babafemi, says a total of 2,118 pills of tramadol concealed in soles of 13 pairs of shoes going to Cyprus were seized at the airport shed of the Lagos airport on October the 12th. An additional 380 tablets recovered from the home of the sender, Okenwa Ochena, during a follow-up operation in Enugu. The statement adds that 293 ampules of promethazine and pentazocine injection, as well as 1.69 kilograms of cannabis and tramadol tablets concealed in hair attachments and soles of shoes going to the US, the UK, and Oman were also intercepted in Lagos on Thursday, October the 24th. A total of 26,250,000 pills of tramadol, as well as 508,400 bottles of codeine-based syrup worth 16,683,800,000 naira in street value were intercepted. These seizures were made during 100% joint examination of watch-listed containers with men of the Customs Service and other security agencies at the Tin Can Port in Lagos and Port Harcourt, Onne, River State between Tuesday the 22nd and Wednesday the 23rd of this month. Residents of Yobe State have continued to count their losses after a 2024 flood submerged several rice, sesame, and millet farmlands. They lament the high cost of farm produce at the peak of harvest compared to previous years, which has inflicted hardship on them. In a special report, our Yobe State correspondent reports on the increase in fuel pump price, flooding, farmer-headed clashes, and hoarding of farm produce, which are identified as the major causes of inflation and food scarcity.
The 2024 flood disaster may have come and gone, but its devastating effect remains fresh in the minds of the victims, especially farmers. Gambo Musa, a farmer who cultivated several hectares of farmland, ended up harvesting only 6 bags of millet, as against 70 bags last year.
This year's harvest has come with worries. Last year, I got 70 bags of millet, but this year, I doubt if I can harvest up to 6 bags. The flood has been too much. It washed away our farmlands.
Visits to some markets in Damaturu by our correspondent shows that a 50-kilogram bag of unprocessed rice is now sold at 65,000 naira, as against 28,000 naira last year, while a 50-kilogram bag of processed millet is now sold for 57,000 naira, as against 30,000 naira during the 2023 harvest.
Last year, a bag of millet was around 30,000 naira, but now it's between 57 to 59,000 naira, and there is also scarcity of this produce.
While some residents bemoan their inability to provide 3 square meals for their families, others lament the increase in fuel pump price, hoarding of produce, and frequent clashes between farmers and herders due to scarcity of grazing areas, encroachment of farmlands, and cattle routes.
Fuel in an economy, especially like the Nigerian economy, has a snowball effect. And what I mean by that is, once you have a touch on fuel and its prices in the country, it affects every facet of life in this country.
My salary can only cater for my 5 days' food because the salary has not been increased, but everything in the market has increased seriously.
The clash of the farmers and herders is contributing to the rising inflation this time around.
Although the Yobe State government recently procured and distributed free agricultural inputs to farmers, experts believe that governments must do more by taking advantage of the flood waters for irrigation farming.
There are some things that we can explore from this flooding devastation. One of which is to have a water harvesting site as localized dams across communities that are ravaged by flooding. And these dams can be medium to small dams, where after the flood must have receded and livestock have started scouting for water, those dams can now be an important source of water for livestock development.
With the threat of food inflation by 2025, especially during the lean period, residents are optimistic that all hands will be on deck to confront the challenge.
In Kaduna State, the Igbo community has honored Governor Uba Sani with a chieftaincy title of Ezienyi Ndigbo, meaning true friend of Ndigbo, in recognition of his administration's efforts in rebuilding trust, strengthening security, forging unity, and creating a conducive atmosphere for businesses to thrive. Speaking at the event, Governor Uba Sani urged the Igbos and other investors to continue to invest in critical sectors of Kaduna State's economy, assuring them that his administration's economic agenda is designed to sustain Kaduna State as an enviable status as a premier investment destination in Nigeria.
A
It is a carnival-like atmosphere at the venue of the 2024 Igbo Cultural Day celebration as thousands of sons and daughters of Igbo extraction resident in Kaduna State rolled out the drums for the biannual event. The event is witnessed by Governor Obasani, who has been honored with a chieftaincy title of Ezianyi Ndibo, meaning true friend of Ndibo, for his uncommon achievements.
We, the resident communities in Kaduna, are highly impressed with the giant strides your administration has recorded within a short period in office.
We feel that we should honor him, and the title we are giving him is Ezianyi Ndibo. That's a very special, outstanding friend of the Igbo.
As part of the chieftaincy conferment, Governor Sani is decorated in traditional Igbo attire by the Eze Igbo Kaduna as a mark of honor. Addressing the celebrants, Governor Sani commends the Igbos for their enterprising, peaceful and resilient spirit. He also announces the immediate allocation of land for building of an ultra-modern auto spare parts market in Kaduna.
I have given approval for the allocation of a large expanse of land for the building of a spare parts market in Kaduna. I have got that in my mind. Our people here will be the greatest beneficiaries of this very plot of land that I'm giving for the construction and building of spare part markets in Kaduna State.
The governor also commends the Igbo community for living in peace and harmony with their host communities, while Arewa youths applaud the gesture.
I urge the Igbo community to give him all the necessary support he requires, because it's no story the Igbo are quite enterprising in their ways and wherever they find themselves.
As he departs the venue amid the applause and praises from the cheering crowd, Governor Sani promises that his government is willing and ready to partner with Igbo industrialists and entrepreneurs to invest in Kaduna State, owing to its very attractive incentives and sustained efforts to restore lasting peace and development across the state.
And now to the arts. Works of art which celebrate women was on the center stage at the Fubali Art Gallery. Now, the exhibition, which took place in Lagos, was for the narration of African feminism with paintings and mixed media pieces that explore different social issues. See it on Art Review tonight.
Bold images of African female voices and their inspirational quotes adorn the entrance of the Fubali Art Gallery in Lagos for the exhibition titled The Narration of African Feminism.
And everybody,
A crowd has gathered to see the paintings, sculptures, and installations that do justice to this theme.
The vision is to make a statement that the creative industry has a role to play in every movement within the society. As we know, the feminism is a political, social, and economic movement of empowering women and seeking for women gender equality. And when we say gender equality, it might not necessarily be seeking for female equality, even for men equality. Because as much as women are empowered and given opportunity to exhibit and to express themselves to the highest minimum, it's not only the women that get blessed, it's not only the immediate family that get blessed, the society at large is empowered by empowering women.
But there are men who support this cause, and their works of art have been exhibited in this space.
From the area of paintings and drawings and sculptures that we have seen today, we have seen that there are creations of, women, not necessarily by women, but people who have a value, who have actually the intonation to bring women to the forefront in so many areas. They cannot lag behind. They can't afford to lag behind. And so this exhibition is a way of spurring our women to really take their space. gone are the days when women is at the background, when women is at the kitchen, but today they are, most of them are at the forefront, and that makes life more better and more easier. And women generally have compassion. I believe that if we have women at the helms of affairs in some of the areas, things will begin to normalize one way or the other. That's what I believe.
This topic has been explored intensely from pre-colonial times till date. And for the organizers, it's important to give women all the support and make this conversation a continuous one until change comes.
Welcome to Sports News. The Paralympic Committee of Nigeria is seeking a corporate and private partnership to address issues affecting parasports in the country. In an event organized in Lagos to honor the Paralympians, the PCN hopes to achieve a sustainable support structure for special athletes. Our sports correspondent, Austin Okonakwan, reports.
The Paralympic Committee of Nigeria have put together this event to address the major challenge of funding and lack of support for the country's Paralympians. They've also described it as a night of excellence to celebrate the Paralympians for everything that they've done for the country. But is this event enough to address the major issues bedeviling parasports in Nigeria? We'll find out.
These special athletes are the reason for this celebration. Whenever they represent the motherland, they create beautiful moments, and the Paralympics Committee of Nigeria wants them to feel loved and appreciated.
Since the start of Paralympic Games in Barcelona, the Paralympic athletes have never disappointed Nigeria. If you look at the record, it had been back to back. We never, any Paralympic game you will not like the Paralympic team that is my game. Talking about world record, how many world records steady?
We, the persons with disability, we are just passing a message because we are being neglected, we are being downgraded, and God always keep on showing Nigerians that persons with disability are persons, especially in parasport, are persons that they cannot joke or play with. So if they keep on neglecting us, relegating us to the background, they will keep on getting a negative result.
Corporates Nigeria, past and current sports administrators, Paralympians, and the clergy are here to assist in tackling the major issues affecting parasports in the country.
It's important when we support them, and it's not about them. I'm a pastor. I will always go back to the Bible, the book of Luke chapter number 6, that verse number 13. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaking together, running over. That is what shall be returned back to your bosom. So give, encourage them. I've seen amazing thing tonight. They have got heart of gold.
If you look at sport, is a business, and you can uplift persons with disability through sporting activities when you engage them. Look at these people. In the history of Nigeria, they make Nigeria proud. In the Parish, this is not the first time they are bringing medals. In the history of Nigeria, Paralympic athletes, they brought almost getting to 100 medals.
Early preparation will ensure them to win, and we have put in place a good strategy now by starting early.
The Paralympic Committee of Nigeria have taken a step towards addressing the major challenges affecting parasports in Nigeria. Nigerians present at this event also agreed that there must be a long-term commitment towards supporting these para-athletes. We'll monitor it from now until Los Angeles 2028 to understand if it's a bold step or a timid one. Austin Okonakwan, Channels Television News, Lagos.
In the English Premier League, Cole Palmer, the England international, scored the 7th goal of the season as Chelsea beat Newcastle to continue their impressive start earlier this evening. Palmer struck early in the second half when his clean strike from just inside the penalty area beat Nick Pope at his near post. Crystal Palace claimed their first win of the Premier League season as Jean-Philippe Mateta's first-half strike sealed a 1-0 win over Tottenham at Selhurst Park. West Ham piled more pressure on beleaguered Man United boss Erik ten Hag with a dramatic 2-1 win over the Red Devils at the London Stadium. Mohamed Salah rescued Liverpool as the Egypt Stars' late equaliser earned a pulsating 2-2 draw against title rivals Arsenal. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says Israel's attack on his country should not be exaggerated or downplayed, while refraining from pledging immediate retaliation. It follows President Masoud Pezeshkian's comments that Iran would give an appropriate response to the attack and that Tehran does not seek war.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had only just approached the podium at the memorial ceremony to address attendees when a few men in the crowd began to heckle him. The Prime Minister looked on as the hecklers were then escorted out by security. The Prime Minister then continued his speech. He said Israel hit hard Iran's ability to defend itself and to produce missiles when its Air Force struck early Saturday morning. He told the attendees, "In the early morning hours of Saturday, we fulfilled our promise. The Air Force attacked throughout Iran. We hit hard Iran's defense capabilities and its ability to produce missiles that are aimed at us." He said the attack in Iran was precise and powerful and achieved all of its objectives. An American researcher said one Israeli airstrike hit a building that was part of Iran's defunct nuclear weapons development program. And he and another researcher said facilities used to mix solid fuel for missiles were also struck. The assessments based on commercial satellite imagery were reached separately by David Albright, a former UN weapons inspector, and Decker Evleth, an associate research analyst at CNA, a Washington think tank. They said Israel struck buildings in Parchin, a massive military complex near Tehran. Israel also hit Khujir, according to Evleth, a sprawling missile production site near Tehran. Videos carried by Iranian media on Saturday showed an air defense system continuously firing at apparently incoming projectiles in central Iran. The media reported multiple explosions over several hours in the capital and nearby military bases, but there were no immediate reports of damage or casualties.
And the main news again. The FCT Emergency Management Department has recovered 7 bodies of iron scavengers who invaded the site of a demolished building in Abuja. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde. Bodo, have a good night and please stay safe.